Alright everyone, settle in. Today's lesson concerns a creature that answers a very important question. What if necromancers stopped showing restraint entirely? Because somewhere at some point in history, a dark wizard looked at a severed hand and decided it still had some potential. So open your books to the chapter labeled Unlikely Threats. Today, we're discussing crawling hands, or as they're more properly known in certain corners of Faerun, the crawling claw. Is it possible for any creature, any living being to be inherently evil? Such an assertion may itself facilitate the committing of evil acts. By defining a person as evil, we give them free rein to behave as they will, absolving them from the wickedness of their words and the evil of their hands. Ansem Haas, the isolation of evil. Now, despite the dramatic name, these creatures are fairly straightforward. A crawling claw is exactly what it appears to be. A severed humanoid hand reanimated through necromancy, and usually the left hand, oddly enough. Why specifically the left hand? That's an excellent question. Unfortunately, necromancers aren't known for documenting their reasoning particularly well. These things are often created by warlocks, wizards, and servants of dark powers to perform simple tasks. In fact, they have a specific spell that they use for this very purpose, appropriately named Create Crawling Claw. They start by casting the warding spell Magic Circle Against Good around both the caster and the severed hands. It requires fingernail clippings of a ghoul and a lost or stolen ring as components, and it takes about 1 hour to complete. The mages then use these creatures for various tasks, things like guard duty, carrying objects, spying, and strangling people in the dark. You know, household chores. And despite lacking eyes, ears, or really anything one would normally associate with awareness, they somehow still perceive the world around them perfectly well. Physically, crawling claws move by skittering across the ground with their fingers, like some kind of pale spider, across floors, up walls, even along ceilings. And apparently, some are capable of launching themselves several feet into the air through what scholars have professionally described as disturbing spasms. So that's information we all have to live with going forward. Now, individually, they aren't especially dangerous. Most adventurers, even novices, could destroy one fairly quickly. The problem is, crawling claws rarely stay alone for long, because when enough of them gather together, they form these swarms known as applauses. And I need everyone to understand, that is perhaps the single worst name anyone has ever given a group of monsters. Watch out, here comes the applause. Wonderful, horrifying, well done, scholars. But the truly unsettling part of these creatures isn't their strength, it's the implication behind them. According to various necromantic records, crawling claws retain fragments of emotion from the people they once belonged to, mostly hatred, malice, violent impulses. Some are even said to compulsively reenact murders they committed in life, which means somewhere out there could be a wizard being chased through his own tower by an extremely committed hand. And honestly, that feels deserved. In fact, interestingly, these hands are imbued with the actual spirit of the humanoid from which they were created, meaning that the ritual itself will fail if the hand's original owner is already among the undead, or if the spirit has long since passed into the afterlife. Furthermore, if a necromancer creates a claw from a still living humanoid, it can, through some foul magic, knit itself back onto their arm if given the chance, leaving it indistinguishable from before it was removed. Though an interesting note about that, if the hand is removed once more, the humanoid will fall into a coma, and if the hand were to die, it would kill the host outright. So the spiritual link there is particularly potent. They're also strangely difficult to classify, considered part undead, part construct, and they're immune to many effects that would normally influence undead creatures. which has led certain scholars to spend decades arguing over what category they belong in. Not that it's particularly important, but you know how scholars are. Now, over the years, crawling claws have appeared all throughout the realms. Necromancers of Vel-Sharun are known to employ them fairly often. Some warlocks even keep them as familiars. And in Baldur's Gate itself, a pair named Itchy and Scratchy could reportedly be found accompanying the Circus of Last Days, which somehow makes the entire concept worse, because now they have names, and that means someone got attached to them emotionally. Now then, before we conclude today's lecture, I would advise everyone here to avoid leaving severed limbs unattended near practicing necromancers, especially left hands, because you can never be too careful. Thanks for listening. Alright everyone, that ends this one, The Crawling Claw. Hope you enjoyed it. I know it was a short one this week. Make sure to like and comment the video, and I'll see you for the next one. So be safe, take care, and happy trails.